All right, let's dive right into today's explainer. We're going to be respectfully unpacking a really sobering situation that recently unfolded at London's Heathrow Airport. It's a workplace tragedy that's honestly shaken the aviation community, and we're going to walk through exactly what happened, how the major players responded, and what this complex web of safety investigations actually looks like in practice. Let's start by looking at the details of the tragedy itself at Heathrow. At its heart, this is really a story about the heartbreaking loss of a young engineer. It all started on the morning of June 11th. What was supposed to be just a totally standard routine maintenance shift inside a Heathrow hangar went terribly, terribly wrong. Following an accident, this engineer was rushed to the hospital with some really serious injuries. And that led to a grueling 4 weeks in intensive care. Tragically, despite everything the medical teams tried, he passed away on July 7th. The person at the center of this is Georgie Buxton. Georgie was just 23 years old, a highly popular, super enthusiastic aircraft technician. He was right at the very beginning of what looked like a really promising career. He actually just joined Virgin Atlantic earlier in 2024 after working with Ryanair over at Stansted Airport. And he'd spoken before about how this move to Virgin Atlantic was a fantastic opportunity for him to build his skills and get his hands on different, more complex types of aircraft. So, what exactly went wrong? Well, sources confirm this was a hangar machinery accident. While Georgie was doing his routine maintenance checks on a Virgin Atlantic Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner, some incredibly heavy machinery being used in the hangar suddenly collapsed on him. Now, I want to be super clear here, based on the official statements, just to cut through any rumors you might have heard. Virgin Atlantic has confirmed this did not involve a failure of an aircraft engine. It was strictly a failure of the heavy maintenance equipment surrounding the plane itself. So, how does an airline respond to something like this? Let's look at the immediate grounding of that Boeing Dreamliner. Almost immediately, Virgin Atlantic put out a public statement. They expressed that they were absolutely heartbroken to confirm the loss of a much-loved team member. They made it a point to emphasize that their absolute top priority is the safety and well-being of their people. Right now, they're heavily focused on supporting Georgie's grieving family and, of course, his totally devastated colleagues during this incredibly tough time. And Heathrow Airport actually echoed that exact sentiment with a statement of their own. I really want to highlight this because it shows you something profound about the aviation industry. Sure, it's a massive, sprawling global network on paper, but at the operational day-to-day level, it is a tight-knit family. A tragedy like this doesn't just impact one single airline. The shockwaves ripple through all the tens of thousands of workers who share those runways and hangars every single day. Now, as a direct operational consequence of this accident, Virgin Atlantic made a huge decision. They completely grounded the specific Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner that was involved in the incident. They pulled it from service immediately so they could launch their own rigorous internal safety investigation. Basically, they need to understand the absolute root cause of why that machinery failed before they even think about letting that plane fly again. To kind of put that into perspective for you, just think about the number 17. Virgin Atlantic currently operates a total of 17 Boeing 787-9 Dreamliners in their long-haul fleet. Grounding even one of these massive high-revenue aircraft, that is a massive operational and financial call to make. It really underscores just how seriously they're taking this internal safety investigation. Which brings us to the formal joint safety investigations that are now underway. Because the absolute most crucial thing right now is figuring out exactly how this happened so it literally never happens again. We've got 4 major entities meticulously working together in this multi-agency investigation. You have the Metropolitan Police, the Health and Safety Executive, or HSE, Virgin Atlantic's own internal safety team, and Boeing, the actual manufacturer of the aircraft. And there's a really interesting contrast to point out here. If this were just a standard workplace fatality in, say, a normal factory, the HSE and local police would simply follow standard reporting protocols. But because this happened in a highly regulated aviation environment involving an aircraft, suddenly incredibly strict aviation protocols kick in. That means specialized technical aviation bodies might also get pulled in to consult on the highly specific mechanics of how the aircraft and that ground equipment interact. So as all these different agencies are busy gathering findings, conducting interviews, and tearing down that machinery to examine it, we naturally have to ask the big question: what happens next? What are the actual legal steps to get official closure and put this on the public record? Well, the immediate legal next step is a formal inquest. That'll be opened at the West London Coroner's Court later this week. And the standard procedure for something this complex is to do what's called an open and adjourn. Basically, that means they formally recognize the death on the public record, but then they hit pause on the legal proceedings. This gives the police and the HSE the ample time they need to finish their deeply technical investigations and officially determine the precise legal cause of death.
Let's zoom out for a second and look at the broader, unseen risks of aviation maintenance.
I want you to consider this absolutely staggering number, 76,000. That is the number of people employed directly within the physical grounds of Heathrow Airport alone. I mean, with a plane taking off or landing literally every 45 seconds, this massive workforce operates in an incredibly high-stakes, heavy machinery environment. It relies 100% on totally uncompromising safety measures.
Think about it. Every time we board a flight, we rarely stop to think about the people who actually made it safe for us to fly in the first place. Aircraft technicians face immense, inherent risks every single day. We're talking about operating incredibly heavy machinery, navigating dangerously confined spaces inside the aircraft structure, working at heights on these massive airframes, all while carrying the huge responsibility of ensuring the airworthiness of some of the most complex vehicles humanity has ever engineered. And that brings us to our final point regarding live updates. Because this tragic incident is a really stark, heartbreaking reminder of the risks and sacrifices made by the dedicated people working entirely behind the scenes. And remember, this is still a highly active, developing story. Since the HSE, the Met Police, and the coroner investigations are all still super active, new facts are definitely going to continue to emerge. So to stay fully informed on the joint investigations, the findings, and that upcoming coroner's inquest, be sure to head over and visit londoner.news/Heathrow-engineer-death. The team over at Londoner News is running a live feed for objective, factual updates as this whole story progresses, so it's an excellent resource to keep bookmarked. I'm going to leave you with a thought to chew on, especially the next time you're waiting at the gate and looking out the airport window at those ground crews. As global aviation just continues to explode, literally hitting the busiest travel days in recorded history right now, how can this industry evolve its safety protocols and machinery standards to better protect the young technicians who are out there working tirelessly in the hangars behind the scenes? It's something we really need to figure out. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and please stay curious and stay informed.